Okay, so we're beginning today a new Tehillim, which is ayin number 70. And as we usually do, we go through the introduction of Rabbi Foyer and his beautiful commentary on Tehillim. And he speaks about here that the last Tehillim that we were learning, number 69, was really all about HaKadosh Baruch Hu redeeming the nation of Klal Yisrael. And this one, as we're going to see, it's Dovid HaMelech making a personal plea that he's asking that HaKadosh Baruch Hu will redeem him as well. And it's based upon the first Rashi on this Tehillim. And Rashi himself is quoting a midrash. Rashi writes like this. The first pasuk says, Lanatzech leDavid lahaskir, which means that Hashem should remember Dovid HaMelech. What should he remember him for? So the Rashi writes like this. First of all, lahaskir is a language of tefillah. Dovid HaMelech is offering a tefillah, a prayer over here. We find other places where this word zechira, to remind, remember me, is a tefillah. Now he writes, what is it? What is the tefillah? I found the following mashal, the following parable in the Midrash Tehillim, and it says like this: there was a king that got angry with his tzayna, with his flock of sheep. And so he knocked down the corral. And he took out all of the sheep, all the whole flock that was there. And he took the shepherd out of his position. After a certain amount of time, so the king brings back the tzayin, he brings back the livestock. Then he builds the deer, he builds the corral, but he forgets about the shepherd. So the shepherd comes to the king and he says, you brought back the sheep. You rebuilt the corral. But you don't remember me? You don't bring me back. Also, who's going to take care of the sheep? And so Dovid HaMelech is saying the same thing. He's looking at Klal Yisrael. Klal Yisrael has gone into the Gullus, as we spoke about. They were in terrible exiles. And the Jewish people were sent astray. They were sent into all different places. But then we said, Ki Elokim Yoshi Etzion, Hashem, you're going to save Zion, you're going to save Yerushalayim, you'll save Klal Yisrael. Those that love HaKadosh Baruch Hu, they'll dwell once again inside the Beis HaMikdash in Yerushalayim. So he said, the city is rebuilt. And the Jewish people are brought in. David HaMelech, the shepherd, you don't remember David HaMelech, you're not going to bring me back? That's why David is saying in the beginning of this Tehillim, please HaKadosh Baruch Hu, save me, remember me, and bring me back. Meaning, it's true that we're going to have gullus, we're going to have exile. It's true the Jewish people are going to be sent into different countries and different places. But the ultimate goal is that we come back to Eretz Yisrael, we come back to Yerushalayim HaKadosh, there'll be a Beis HaMikdash that gets rebuilt. And my wish and my hope and my prayer is that just as I was leading the Jewish people at one time in history, that when you will bring them back, you'll allow me to lead them once again. And therefore, just like you brought back the tzayin, eventually you'll bring back Klal Yisrael, and eventually you'll build the Beis HaMikdash and rebuild the Beis HaMikdash. Let it be me that is the king, and the whole dynasty of Malchus, of kingdom, begins with Dovid HaMelech. Let it be that I should also be Zeich, I should merit to be once again at the helm of Klal Yisrael. So Rav Foyer writes over here that Dovid HaMelech is looking with his nevuah, his prophecy, into the future, and he's rejoicing over the rebirth of our nation. But he feared the following, and that is that the leaders of Klal Yisrael are going to be responsible for the sins of our nation. If someone's at the helm, someone's leading the people, and they end up doing terrible things, and because of those things that they did, they end up getting exiled and banished and taken out of Eretz Yisrael, whose fault is that? It's the people's fault? Whose fault is that? How are they supposed to know all the time what is right and wrong? They need to have a leader, of quality that's going to guide them and lead them and instill Yirah Shamayim in the people and Amun in the people, and therefore help them to live in the right way. So Dovid HaMelech was afraid. He's the king. And like we said, the whole royal lineage of Malchus, of kingdom, comes from Dovid HaMelech. And he was afraid that he and all of his descendants, which means anyone that would be in line of the kingdom, they would be doomed as a result of the fact that perhaps the leaders are going to be held accountable. And therefore, even though that he knows that if the Jewish people step out of line, there's always going to be a blame and a fault on the leader, he's asking HaKadosh Baruch Hu, don't just remember me for the faults of the Jewish people, but remember me for all of the merits as well. How much Klal Yisrael, how much they grew and they prospered spiritually when Dovid HaMelech was the king, how much there was an increase in Torah and there was an increase in mitzvahs and avodah and service of Hashem and tefillah, and the yearnings to build the Beis HaMikdash, which eventually ended up with his son Shlomo HaMelech. How much of that was also the doing of a Dovid HaMelech? And therefore he asks that although that maybe there were mistakes that were made and the people strayed and they did the wrong things, but you can't only look at my performance in that area. I'm asking you to look at me in the better places as well. A coach is, Lamashal, like a coach who's coaching one of these world-class teams. Sometimes they lose the big game. It happens. They have an amazing, amazing season. He's coaching and they're winning every single game and they make it to the finals. And whatever happens, they ruin it in the final game. The players, whatever, this guy hurts his knee and this one doesn't play on the top of the game and the coach makes a few bad calls. So that's it. He goes down in history as the worst coach ever because they lost the final game. He was the best coach until they lost the final game. Dovid HaMelech is the best king until the Jewish people are going to go into and be banished and go into Golus. So he's saying, don't just remember me for the bad things that happen. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you have to remember me for all the good that I accomplished for Klal Yisrael as well. So let's go and see. It's a very short Tehillim. We should, Be'ez Hashem, finish it today. And we'll start with Rav Hirsch. Rav Hirsch writes over here in the beginning, Lamnatseach, Hashem grants victory, LeDavid to Dovid HaMelech, Lahaskir, as a memorial or to be reminded. So says Rav Hirsch, these are the thoughts and the emotions of Dovid HaMelech at this particular moment in his life. And as we're going to see in the other Meforshim, why it was that this is a moment that was fraught with imminent danger, and he recorded what he thought and he felt so that when he would get past all of this, and times would be better, and he would see better days, he would be able to remind himself of the challenges and the difficulties, and nevertheless that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is always the one that would come to his rescue. And even though the one before this is talking about like the national, as we said, it's like the national resurgence and the Geula and the redemption of Klal Yisrael, Dovid HaMelech over here is talking about himself. So the Malbim writes on these words that this kapitel of Tehillim, this paragraph, this chapter of Tehillim, is really a hemshech, is a continuation of other Tehillims that we had so far, which spoke about Dovid HaMelech running from his son Avshalom. That's one of the things that Dovid HaMelech had to be crying. And the other one was that he's running from his father-in-law, Shaul HaMelech. So as we pointed out many times, David had a very difficult life. It was not easy to be Dovid HaMelech. He was always on the run, and he was on the run from the people that he was ultimately closest to. His own son was trying to kill him. His own father-in-law was trying to kill him. No matter how much a child will frustrate and disappoint their parents, no matter how much the relationship between the son-in-laws and daughter-in-laws and the mother-in-law and the father-in-law, it's not like this. It's never like this. You can't imagine. And Dovid HaMelech was the Gadol Adur. He was the giant of the generation. You have to imagine that you have like a Reb Chaim Kanievsky being chased down by his children. Chas v'chada, you could never imagine such a thing. You imagine Reb Chaim Kanievsky, whose father-in-law was Rav Eliashiv. Shalom Melech was a tzaddik. Could you imagine Rav Eliashiv, the father of Reb Chaim Kanievsky, trying to kill his son-in-law? Chas v'shalom, you'd never say such a thing. And Dovid HaMelech was living in that world. And as a result, he knew that things were not easy. So says the Malbim, this Tehillim that we're learning right now, number Ayin, which is 70, is really just a continuation of previous Tehillims that we saw. Tehillim number Mem and also Lamed Aleph, so 40 and 31 are speaking about Dovid HaMelech running away from Avshalom, and it's talking about Dovid HaMelech running away from his father-in-law Shalom Melech. And he writes over here, Hispalel b'barcha b'vnei Avshalom. Dovid HaMelech was davening when he was running away from Avshalom. Ki mavaya medivrei hamizmor shehispalel oisai leisig nosai. So Dovid HaMelech over here is davening to Hashem at the time of his old age. When he was a younger man, he was running away from his son and running away from his father-in-law. He davened to Hashem, please Hashem, rescue me. Now it's at the end of his life, and he's getting much older. And he says like this, Hashem asima niflois min urav. Just like HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you made miracles with me when I was younger, and you rescued me from the hands of my enemies. Don't forget about me even in my old age. You think that it's going to end for Dovid HaMelech? He had a moment to catch his breath and just sit back and enjoy his glorious elder years? No, it didn't work like that. And so Dovid HaMelech is asking HaKadosh Baruch Hu, as you listen to my tefillos then, I'm asking you to listen to my tefillos now as well. And I want you to take care of me and watch over me and redeem me and protect me, just like you did so many years ago. He was asking Hashem, do not abandon me in my old age. So in the 40th Tehillim, Dovid HaMelech is telling HaKadosh Baruch Hu, thank you for the miracles when I was running away from Shaul, that you took care of me. And so too over here, I also need miracles. My life doesn't get any easier, says Dovid HaMelech, and this is always one of the messages that we have to take out of Tehillim. Life is not easy. And it never says that it is. It never says that, you're going to have, things are going to go well, and then brachas and everything just run smooth for the rest of your life. Dovid HaMelech was on the run every single day of his life. He was working hard every single day of his life. He was putting in energy every single day of his life, and things were difficult. But he always knew where to turn. He always turned to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. He was always mispalel to Hashem. He always begged HaKadosh Baruch Hu, take care of me, protect me. On my own, I don't have the merits, I don't have the schusim, I don't have the rights to even ask, but I'll ask anyway, says Dovid HaMelech. And as a result of that, Hashem made many miracles throughout his life. Here he is, le'eis zignasa, at the end of his life. He just wants to enjoy. He just wants to sit back, see his children, his grandchildren, the Malchus, the kingdom that he raised, the Jewish people. The seeds of Mashiach are in the air, and the Beis HaMikdash is getting ready to be built for the first time. And Dovid HaMelech says, but it doesn't work out like that for me. I'm always on the run. I'm always, there's so many horrible stories from October 7th, but there are Holocaust survivors who ended up being taken captive, who ended up going through all this. One of the people that survived miraculously from I think kibbutz Nir, that's one of the kibbutzim. I think kibbutz Nir. One of the families that survived, one of the families who survived was a father and a mother and their little 13-month-old or 14-month-old child. Nisa v'niflois, how they were able to stay alive in the sealed room for like 13 hours straight. They were taking 3 hours, I don't remember, 13 hours and then 3 days, and the miracle after miracle. But at the same time, they had living in that town, there was their brothers and their sister, and some of their family members were killed. And the grandfather of this family was a Holocaust survivor. And when they came to the grandparents to tell them what happened, he says, you cannot imagine the pain that my grandfather was in when he heard about the slaughterings and the death of our family. A man who went to Auschwitz, who saw all the horrors that he could ever dream of in his life, the worst nightmares of all. To make it to the land of Eretz Yisrael, to have a family, to have children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, to have all of that, and sit back and be able to see the glory of Hashem, and then at 95 years old, 100 years old, have to come to this confrontation of such destruction. Says Dovid HaMelech, it doesn't end. The life and the struggles of a person in this world, it simply does not end. But just as I davened to you in the beginning of my life, when I was young and I was spry and I was fresh, and even there I recognized how much I need your help, certainly, at the end of a life, I don't even have the strength anymore that I used to have. I don't have the abilities that I used to have. I can't run the way that I used to run away from the enemy. So certainly, says Dovid HaMelech, I'm begging you, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, have mercy on me, have pity on me, don't forget about me, remember me. Don't leave me. Fine, like we said. The Dovid Lahaskir, that's why it says, this is a remembrance for Dovid HaMelech. Shemaskir ata rishonos. You should remember right now the earlier miracles that you made. Shelo yarev yadai mimeni. You never let go of me, says Dovid HaMelech. You were always holding on to me, Hashem. You were always with me every single step of the way. I was never on my own. Gamata, so too now. V'acharav lokach shloisha charuzim mimizmor lamed aleph. And he writes, and if you look at Mizmor Lamed Aleph number 31, and you look at 40, you'll see a lot of overlap in the words that are there. It says, Dovid HaMelech, I'm asking you, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you held on to me all of these years. You're holding on to me every single year since I'm a young man, running and running and running for my life and for my existence. You never let go of me then. Please, don't let go of me now. What do we say? We say, Al tashlicheni le'ezikna. Don't, my Rosh Hashiva used to say, it bothers me when young people are the ones that are leading the davening during that time. Al tashlicheni le'ezikna. The young man is 25 years old in his prime. Don't abandon me in my old age. But when an older person gets up there and they scream out, don't abandon me in my old age. Every person who's getting on in years understands what that means. Your body doesn't feel the same. Your mind doesn't work as well. Your energy is lower. There's more complications. There's more things going on in your life. Everybody understands that. So when you call out, Al tashlicheni le'ezikna, don't abandon me in my old age, Dovid HaMelech is saying, please don't abandon me in my old age. Thank you very much. Dovid HaMelech is saying, please do not abandon me in my old age, because just as you held on to me before, I need you to hold on to me right now. Says Rav Hirsch further, the next pasuk, Elokim lahatzileni. Elokim, which is always the God of justice, of judgment. Lahatzileni, I need you to save me. Hashem, which is the God of chesed, of compassion. Le'azrasi chusha, you should help me and deliver me quickly. Says Rav Hirsch, Dovid is asking for, in two ways, that Hashem should hasten his geul, his personal redemption right now. Number one, he says, Elokim, you are the judge of the world. And I want you to frustrate the intentions of the foes of my enemies and deliver me from their hands. There are many people that are plotting against me and planning against me and want to do a lot of things that are very negative. So, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you have to go in there and you have to destroy their plans. That's the God of Elokim, of judgment. But then you're also Hashem. You're the God, you're chesed, you're the giver. You can give a better future. You can renew my vigor, says HaKadosh Baruch, says Dovid HaMelech. And he's asking Hashem, pass me beyond the present moment where there's this new destruction. Again, Dovid HaMelech is always, everywhere that he looks, he has destruction on the rise. And he says, if you'll save me and you'll rescue me and you'll give me new vigor, new strength and everything, because I'm an old man at this point, that will give me the ability that I need to be able to consecrate your will, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So Dovid HaMelech knows how to ask. He never stopped asking from Hashem, and he continues to push on even in this time. Then he says, "Yevoishu v'yachru mevakshe nafshi." Those that are trying to destroy me, says Dovid HaMelech, I want you to unmask them. Yisoigu achar v'yikamu chafetzi ra'asi, and they should fall back and be ashamed, whoever wants to hurt me. Says Rav Hirsch, how does a person measure success in this world? Somebody asks you, are you a successful person? How does one measure success? Success is what I feel are my accomplishments. If I set out in this world to make $1 million and I make $1 million, I'm a successful person. If I wanted to start a company and the company takes off, I'm successful. If I tried to make $1 million and I only made $500,000, I'm a failure. If I wanted the companies to succeed and this company just doesn't take off, whatever it is, for some reason nobody is interested in buying my product, so then it's going to be, I'm a failure. I wanted to lose 100 pounds and I only lost 40 pounds, so I'm a failure. What about the 40 pounds that you did lose? Or whatever, I wanted something, I'm a failure. My success is based upon a person fulfilling what they set out to do. And if I don't reach that, or I don't find success in the eyes of the other people around me, I don't drive the right car, I don't have the right house, I don't wear the right clothes, I don't have go on the right vacations, I don't do the right things with my spare time, so then I'm a failure in the eyes of everybody. Says Dovid HaMelech, my enemies who set out to destroy me, every time that they complicate my life, they feel that they're a success. Every time they chase me down and they chase me down into the midbar, into the wilderness, and they get me to be concealed inside of a cave, and I'm dying there and I'm sick and I can't get out of there. Every time that they do these things, they think that they are successful, that they've accomplished their goals of destroying Dovid HaMelech. So I'm asking you the following, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. I want you to thwart all of their plans, and I actually want you to destroy them, and show that I instead will continue to remain unscathed and untouched, and I will succeed, because when I am successful, it is a shtach, as we say. It silences my enemies, because they realize that they are not the ones that are succeeding. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the one that is in charge, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu is taking care of me. And the less that they succeed in accomplishing their plans and their ideas, so then the more disappointed they're going to be. And says Dovid HaMelech, when they are disappointed, it forces them to recognize that you are the succeeder and I am successful, and they themselves have not reached what they want. So Dovid HaMelech is asking HaKadosh Baruch Hu over here that those that try to be victorious over me, I beg of you, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, let them fail. Because when they fail, it's like the biggest embarrassment to their life. It's the worst feeling they could possibly have. And then they realize that they are not as successful as they would like to be. I would liken it almost to what goes on in right now with, you have all of these terrorists, these Hamas terrorists, they're surrendering. If you think about it, I think maybe we spoke about it, but they're raised on the ideology that the greatest honor in the world is to die while killing the Jewish people. That's what they are raised to do. And yet, they're walking out of these tunnels surrounded by the IDF, and their hands are up, and they're throwing down their weapons, and they are giving in to the fact that they have lost. What a disgrace. Their mothers are probably rolling over in their graves. I raised a kid like this. That's what he does. He surrenders himself to the enemy, to the Jew. Says Dovid HaMelech, that's a sign of our success. When our enemies lose, when our enemies are destroyed, when our enemies trying to do something and their plans are frustrated and thwarted because you have monopolized the situation and shown our power, so then that's what will end up showing the greatness of Hashem and the greatness of those that follow in the pathways of HaKadosh Baruch Hu as well. Says the Radak on the opening lines over here of this Tehillim. Okay, fine. Here also says the same idea. This is talking about Dovid is continuing his discussion with Hashem about Avshalom and about Shalom Melech. Let's see. The pasuk says like this in Gimel, and that's the one we're in right now, that Hashem should embarrass, he should really shame those that are trying to destroy me. Says the Metzudas Dovid, Bira'oisam ki lo yochlu li, when they see that they cannot conquer me, they are embarrassed. Yasugu derech hanikalim lachzor liacharav, those that are embarrassed, they usually retreat. L'bal yirami babashto, because the person that has embarrassed them, they don't want to be seen by them. So when HaKadosh Baruch Hu, when you destroy those who are trying to get us, when you thwart all their plans and you get them, you get rid of them, so then the very nature of what they're going to do is they're going to backtrack and they will retreat and they want to stay away because they are just too embarrassed to be in the presence of us when we are victorious. Skipping around a little bit over here, the pasuk says in Hey, Yasisu v'yismechu b'cha. However, let all of those, kol mevakshecha, all of those who seek you, let them yasisu v'yismechu, let them rejoice, and let them be yismechu, let them have happiness. V'yoymu samir, and let them say constantly, Yigdal Elokim ayave Yeshuasecha, and let them say at all times that Hashem, you have revealed your greatness. So the enemies are looking to destroy us, but if someone is a mevakesh, someone is seeking HaKadosh Baruch Hu and looking for HaKadosh Baruch Hu all of the time, so that is the person then that will be able to say in great confidence that through the victories that we were able to have, so you have revealed your greatness. Now you'll remember when we learned Mishlei together many moons ago. So there was a machlekes, there was an argument between the Vilna Gaon and the Malbim on the words Sasain and Simcha. Sasain and Simcha both mean happiness and joy, but one of them is the expected happiness, and one of them is the happiness, the joy that you receive when you have unexpected. Like when you get a knock on the door and your oldest friend in the world that you were not expecting ends up coming to visit you. So that's unexpected happiness. You can't believe it. You start screaming and shrieking and everything. It's incredible. Expected happiness is that when it's your birthday, your husband's going to remember this year, and maybe that's unexpected happiness, but he should remember, and he's going to buy you flowers and your favorite chocolates, and he's going to take you out to the restaurant, and you're going to have a nice time. So whatever is expected, that's either simcha or sasin. It depends on if you learn like the Vilna Gaon or the Malbim. And the other one is the unexpected. So Dovid HaMelech is saying over here, it's like it's both. When Klal Yisrael is in trouble, and Dovid HaMelech is talking about himself over here, but when I'm in trouble, Klal Yisrael is in trouble, and it's not so clear what the outcome is going to be. It's not clear we're going to be victorious, we're not going to win. Hashem's going to come to our salvation, He's not going to come to salvation. The enemy's going to get the strong hand, they're not going to get the strong hand. How's it going to work out? We don't know right now. So therefore, Yasisu v'yismechu, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, it's going to be like a double type of a simcha. On one hand, we are expecting, like the Malbim writes, just like you never let go of me for all of those years when I was younger, and you always took care of me, and you were always there with me, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So I'm expecting that right now you're going to be with me as well. But at the same time, Le'ezi Gnasa, at the time of my old age, when there's been a long life that I've gone through, and there's still enemies that are rising up against me, I don't know, maybe I squeezed out every single merit that there is in my bank account. Maybe every word of Torah that I learned, it was used up already to save my life, so for 1,000 times already. So I don't know what's going to happen. So therefore, anyone that is a mevakesh, anyone that's looking for HaKadosh Baruch Hu and seeking Hashem and trying their best to live together with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, so then both things are possible to happen right now. Number one, we always anticipate salvation from Hashem. Not a chiddush at HaKadosh Baruch Hu to save us. Is it a chiddush? Is it a novel idea that Hashem is making miracles in IDF and making miracles in Gaza? What would we expect? The truth of the matter is, when the miracle doesn't happen, we're surprised. When you turn on the news and you see, Hashem Yerachim, 3 soldiers were killed, you said, how did that happen? Hashem saved so many others, how did that happen? So we always expect that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to rescue us. We always expect that Klal Yisrael will be zeicha, that we will merit salvation. We always anticipate that Hashem, He loves us more than He loves anybody else in the world. Why wouldn't He take care of us? So that's simcha or sasa, depending on the Vilna Gaon of the Malbim. At the same time, since we don't really know, and we're never sure that if we have enough merits, and we never know if times have changed, and maybe there's a lot of midas hadin that's in the world right now, so we don't really know. So when HaKadosh Baruch Hu, when you save me, I know anybody who saw these video clips of the soldiers coming back and surprising their parents and seeing them for the first time, the parents, could you imagine what it's like to be a parent for 76 days when your child is in Gaza? And you're turning on the news every single day and you're seeing another tank exploding and another people this and another people this. Every day you must be living on edge. And then when that son comes home, and you didn't hear that he was killed, so you're expecting he's going to come home. But until he's actually there in front of you, you don't know that he's actually there. So it's like a duality of simcha. On one hand, I've been expecting, I believe in HaKadosh Baruch Hu, I trust in Hashem, I daven every single day, my son's going to come back. But now he's here. That's sasa and that's simcha. That is the unexpected joy. And that's the screaming and the yelling and the hugging and the kissing and the brachas and everything that took place over there. I just heard on a shir from Rabbi Kalish. Rabbi Kalish, he's so moved by all the soldiers coming home. He said, if anybody has a clip, just send it to me. I want to see that love of a parent and a child. I need to see it. And that's the love. And that's the belief that we have, that we believe that HaKadosh Baruch Hu, yes, He's going to save us, and yes, He's going to rescue us, and He's going to take care of our needs. But when it happens, it's like it comes as a surprise as well, because we're not sure. We can't rely on ourselves. We can't rely on our merits. We don't have what is necessary. We trust in Hashem. At the same time, when it does happen, it's like it comes, it's miraculous. And therefore, anyone that's a mavakesh, anyone that is seeking HaKadosh Baruch Hu, anyone who's looking for Hashem, anyone who's searching for Hashem, anybody who wants HaKadosh Baruch Hu in their life and they want to be part of this nation that is steiging, that is growing, that is moving in the right direction. So we ask HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you remove our shame, you cause the embarrassment to the enemies. They're the ones that are going to realize that you're in charge and they are not in charge. And then in that way, you'll reveal Yeshuasecha, you'll reveal your greatness and your salvation. And we will rejoice in two different ways, says Dovid HaMelech. Number one, it will be we're expecting, but on the other hand, it's great surprise when the salvation actually comes. Says the Metzudas Dovid on these words. Vayoimru and ha'oyevim, meaning those that are seeking for Hashem, those that are looking, those that love HaKadosh Baruch Hu, they will always be able to say that Hashem reveals His greatness. Ha'oyevim umitzapim l'shuasecha, those who love and anticipate your salvation, they are reliant upon you at all times, Hashem. And they will say always when the salvation comes, Ma'oid Yigdal Elokim HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you have been made great. So again, we always have to relate this back to ourselves. But every person in their own life has their own Yeshuas, their own salvations that we need. Everybody has. Everybody is lacking something and everybody needs something. Whether it's health, whether it's parnasa, all the different things that a person needs. Everybody needs something. So, are we always waiting, anticipating that the salvation is going to come? Are we mitzapeh Yeshua? Are we waiting that at any moment HaKadosh Baruch Hu can bring us exactly what it is that we need? What we've been asking for and davening for and begging for. I know I got a message after the shir last week, because it goes out onto the WhatsApp. Somebody listened to the shir. We're talking about Shimshon Pincus going out into the empty, desolate area and screaming out, Ta'ati! And I made some statement that you should go up to Reseda Boulevard, and when no one's around, so somebody said, I really need to do that. I really need to go up to Reseda Boulevard and call out and cry out to Hashem when nobody else is around.
My husband also said that too.
What?
When I told him, my husband
Yeah.
said he has to do that
Okay,
too.
I would say that we should take a field trip, but then that will defeat the purpose.
Yeah, no,
You have to go when nobody else is around.
No, my husband loved that story.
But that's the bottom line. The bottom line is that that's someone that anticipates the salvation coming. He knows that if I daven and if I pray and if I do the right things and I meet a connected midah, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to deal with me measure for measure, and he'll change things around. He can shift things around for my sake, for my benefit. So that person, those that love HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and they're anticipating his salvation. So noishim b'choleis, they're always relying upon Hashem. It's not like I'm on my own. Like the Malbim says, you were yarif me, you were holding on to me all these years, says Dovid HaMelech. You hold on to me right now as well. And therefore, when that salvation is going to come, we'll say, now HaKadosh Baruch Hu, everybody knows about your greatness. Everybody can see. If you brought salvation to me, everybody can see how great it is. All these miracles that are coming out of Eretz Yisrael. One thing that it shows to the world, Hashem is really with us. It's true that there are tragedies and there are fatalities. It's true, and it's true the world is piling up against us. Anti-Semitism, every single one. It's true. But when a person will acknowledge and recognize the miracles that are taking place, the signs and the wonders that Hashem does, it shows that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is together with us. A person goes through a difficult sickness or whatever it might be, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu brings them a miraculous refuah shleima. So it shows HaKadosh Baruch Hu is here in the world. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is there. The famous story everybody knows about the guy that once walks into Esha Torah many, many years ago, and he's with the long hair and the leather jacket and the jeans, and he sits down, and Rav Noach Weinberg is giving one of his masterful classes in Shiurim about belief in Hashem and trust in Hashem and get close to Hashem. And this guy's sitting the whole time, he's just smiling. And at the end of the shiur, Rabbi Weinberg looks at this guy and says, "What are you smiling about so much?" He says, "Rabbi," he says, "Hashem and I, we're like this." The guy doesn't have a yarmulke, he's got long hair, he's not religious, but we're like this. So Weinberg says, "Really, how do you know that you and Hashem are like this?" He said, "Because I was on a motorcycle, and I was coming around a curve, I misjudged the curve, and the motorcycle flew off the cliff. I'm falling down I'm going to die. I stick out my hand, and suddenly the next thing you know, my hand grabs onto a branch that's sticking out of the side of the mountain, and I hold on to the branch. The motorcycle goes falling down to the ground, gets destroyed, and I managed to crawl myself back up to the top of the road, and I was saved with a little scratch here." He says, "Rabbi, Hashem and I were like this." So Rabbi Weinberg looks at this young man and he says, "And who do you think pushed you off the cliff to begin with?" HaKadosh Baruch Hu. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the one that is with us every single step of the way. And we just have to keep recognizing that everything that happens, the difficulties and the successes, it's all Hashem. And the more that a person will recognize and see that it's HaKadosh Baruch Hu in their life, the more that they'll be able to see the Dvar Hashem. It was a very, I don't know if the word is cute moment, but it was like a very, I walked Rabbi Shapiro home. We walked to my house yesterday after shul. And we both like stories, obviously. And so we were just trading one story after another. Who could get the other one to cry the most, and who could tell the great best stories. So he's a very heartsick, emotional person. So a few of the stories, he's getting very teary-eyed, and he's like, "Okay, I'm going to tell you a story now also." And he said, "You might want to save it till Yom Kippur. It's a really Yom Kippur Maisa, but we're a small crowd over here, so I'll tell it now. Maybe we'll tell it on Yom Kippur time as well." He said that there's the son-in-law of, he's the son-in-law, his name is Rav Kluft. He's maybe he's a son-in-law of Rav Chaim Kanievsky, if that's possible. Could be son-in-law of Mrs. Barzam, who is the daughter of the Steipler. I believe that's who he is. Rav Yaakov Kluft he's a son-in-law of the daughter of the Steipler. So he once got onto a bus in Eretz Yisrael, and he sits down next to an older Russian Jew. And they're sitting down there, and whatever. Somehow they started striking up a conversation. It was clear that the Russian Jew was not very religious, and they start schmoozing. And the guy feels very bad that he's sitting next to this very chashuv religious Jew, and he's not religious. So he says, Rabbi says, you have to forgive me. I'm a Yom Kippur Yid. So you're a Yom Kippur Jew? Okay, that's a big deal already. He says, what do you mean that you're a Yom Kippur Jew? So I'll tell you. So when I was younger, Stalin brought me into the army, and it was terrible there. You know, they tried to knock out every vestige of Judaism, of Yiddishkeit that you had. And he said, Yom Kippur was coming, and I said to myself, I cannot be Machal Yom Kippur. I cannot desecrate Yom Kippur. But there's nothing that you can do. The army is so fierce in all of their, in keeping the soldiers working. Nothing I can do. So I knew that there's a rule that if you get sick and you end up in the infirmary, so once that you're in the infirmary, you cannot leave for 24 hours. So I thought to myself, what am I going to do that I can get into the infirmary right before Yom Kippur? So I have to stay there all of Yom Kippur. So I came to the doctor and I said, I have a very bad toothache right over here. It's so bad, I'm telling you, Doc, I need you to take out my tooth. I can't have my tooth. So the doctor examines me and he presses, every time he presses, it hurts. Okay, I think you're right. You have a bad tooth. We have to get rid of it. So the dentist, he says, no Novocaine, no anesthesia, no nothing. He goes in with his clamp and he rips out my tooth. But it was Erev Yom Kippur, and the rule is, in Stalin's army, once you have some kind of procedure and you're sick, you can't go out to the battlefield for at least 24 hours. So they put me into a bed, and I spent the entire Yom Kippur in bed. I didn't have to eat, I didn't have to drink, I didn't have to pick up my weapons, nothing. I kept Yom Kippur. This Rav Kluft is blown away. You did such a thing? He said, yes. Yes, I did. And he said, I don't have much left of my Yiddishkeit because the Russians, they took everything out of me. But one thing I have left is Yom Kippur. That's what I have. So the bus comes to a stop, and it's time for this old Yid to get off. And he stands up and he smiles at Rav Kluft. And he says, Rebbe, forgive me for my not so nice looking smile. He's missing his 4 front teeth. He said, I was in Stalin's army 4 years for Yom Kippur. Every year I had him pull out my teeth. So Rav Kluft was so blown away by the Amunah and the Bitachon and the Mesiras Nefesh of a Pashut Yid from the Russian army, from Stalin's army over there. You know, says Dovid HaMelech, and that is that we understand HaKadosh Baruch Hu. There's not every time is a glorious time, not every time is the greatest time, but we know that you are with us every single step of the way. And when that victory will come, when we made it through the hardships and the difficulties and everything, when we made it through all of that, so we're going to rejoice with you, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And those that were the Mevakshei Hashem, those that were always seeking you and searching for you and asking for you, and they love you and they're waiting for you, they rely only upon you, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. At that time, Ma'od Yigdal Elokim, your name, your greatness, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, it will be known. So here you have a Pashut Yid on the bus in Eretz Yisrael, sitting next to Rav Kluft, who married into one of the most illustrious families in all of Klal Yisrael's history, certainly during this last 100 years. And he's blown away by the greatness of a Jew, which speaks about the greatness of Hashem, that a Jew that's in Stalin's army is willing to have his tooth pulled out every single year 4 times for the sake of a Yom Kippur, not to eat, not to drink, not to go out to the fields, not to work. That's HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's the tenacity of Klal Yisrael, but it's also the greatness of Hashem, that the Jewish people, we look to Hashem, we rely upon Hashem, and we'll serve Hashem in any situation. And to conclude over here, says Dovid HaMelech, however, Va'ani ani ve'evyain, I'm an impoverished person, says King David. Elokim chushali, Hashem, make things hasty for me. Ezri mafalti, you're my help and you deliver me. Ata Hashem, Al ta'acher, do not delay. Do not tarry. I want that salvation. I want that to come immediately like this. So David Melech again is in his great humility. He said, "What I have mitzvahs, I have Torah, I have merits on my own, I have schusim. What did I do?" So Dovid Melech learned more Torah than anybody else in the generation. What did I do? I ran Klal Yisrael like no other king. I wrote all of Sefer Tehillim. Okay, so what did I do? Says David. In reality is, I'm ani ve'evyan. I'm impoverished. I have nothing to show for myself. I don't deserve anything, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So I'm affirming my faith in you that everything that's going to come is going to be a deliverance from you, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Says Rav Hirsch, I'm poor, and even though that I'm poor and defenseless, because of my defenselessness, that's why I rely upon you. If I would think I'm a chashuva person, and I can do anything that I want, and I've got my own smarts and my own brains and my own power and my own might, if I would think like that, then I might not rely upon you. But since I recognize I'm defenseless, I have nothing on my own, it's specifically because I recognize that, that's why I rely completely upon you. That you will speedily intervene in your righteous judgment, and with your helping, saving mercy, it's all going to come from you, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So this is a very important thing for us to remember, and that is we all, Baruch Hashem, everybody has their own successes in their life. They have their own milas, their own strengths in their life. They have their own good things they've done in their life. And so we tend to think that, I've done so much, and I am so much, and I am like this. Therefore, I deserve a little bit more, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Why would you do this to me? And why would you do this to me? And why would this end up like that? Says David HaMelech, again, he's the quintessential tzaddik of the generation. He said, I know that I'm defenseless. I know that I have nothing on my own. And therefore, I'm waiting for you to intervene and take care of my enemies and everything that I need. That means anything that a person actually needs in their life. If we get to that place where we can say, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, on my own, worthless, nothing, I don't deserve anything. I need you to bring about the salvation. I need you to hasten the Geula. I need you to bring about whatever it is that I'm begging and asking for. It's not in the schus of my tefillahs. At the end of the day, like we learned last week, even when our tefillah works, it's only because you got to a place that is so pure and so big with HaKadosh Baruch Hu that he just can't say no at that point. But that's because you recognize that Hashem is the one that's going to bring everything in this world. So Im Yetz Hashem, it's a short Tehillim today. Finish number 70. We'll start next week, number 71. But we have to keep these ideas in mind. And that is that on our own, honestly, we deserve nothing. It's only HaKadosh Baruch Hu's chesed, it's His kindness, it's His care that He has for us. And the more that we rely upon Hashem, the more that HaKadosh Baruch Hu sees that we rely upon Him, the more He is going to take care of us. If you'll be walking with somebody, and you are, let's say, God forbid, you're very weak, and your walking is not so good, and that person feels how much weight is on them, that you're leaning on them, they know that as much weight as you are leaning on them, that's as much as they have to push back and give you so that you'll be able to stand and you'll be able to walk. The more that HaKadosh Baruch Hu feels us laying and resting our weight on Him and relying upon Him, the more He's going to support us. So, like it says in Tehillim, Hashlech al Hashem, take all of your burdens and throw it on HaKadosh Baruch Hu, He'll take care of you. So the more that we just put it onto HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and He then is responsible for us, the more He's going to bring the salvation. And yes, Hashem, we should work on putting our burden on Hashem. We should work on nishanes, relying on HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We should work on realizing, ani ve'evyain, we are impoverished, we are poor, we have really nothing on our own. Everything that we accomplish, it's a drop in the bucket for what we are, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And in that schus, as David HaMelech says, I believe, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that the more that I rely upon you, the faster you are going to bring the Yeshua, the salvation, to us on a personal level, family level, community level, Klal Yisrael level. Be'ez Hashem, it should be B'karov, as quick as HaKadosh Baruch Hu possibly can.
Thank you, Rabbi.
You're welcome.